Sara yearned for the soft touch of a child's hand in hers, the gentle weight of a baby in her arms. But year after year, her womb remained a barren wasteland. Hope dwindled with each negative pregnancy test, each hushed conversation with her doctor. The laughter of children playing in the park felt like a sharp pang in her heart. She saw happy families, their joy a constant reminder of her own empty cradle. Despair became a bitter pill she swallowed daily. One day, she stopped visiting the baby section at the department store. She couldn't bear the sight of tiny socks and soft toys. The pain was too much. She retreated into herself, her laughter fading, her smile a distant memory. The bar was dimly lit, the air thick with cigarette smoke and the scent of spilled beer. The atmosphere was heavy, almost suffocating, yet it was a familiar comfort to the regulars who frequented this place. Sara sat alone, nursing a glass of wine, her usual solace in her loneliness. She stared into the crimson liquid, lost in her thoughts, the noise of the bar fading into the background. A man approached, his features obscured by the shadows. He moved with a quiet confidence, his presence commanding attention even in the dim light. His voice was low and melodic. His eyes seemed to hold a universe of secrets. He spoke with an intensity that made Sara's heart race, each word drawing her deeper into his enigmatic world. He spoke of distant lands, of ancient prophecies, his words washing over her like a warm wave. His stories were mesmerizing, painting vivid pictures in her mind, making her forget the world around her. He bought her a drink, his touch lingering on her hand a moment too long. The connection between them was palpable, a spark that neither could ignore. She knew she shouldn't, but she found herself drawn to him, his mystery a beacon in her darkness. Her mind screamed caution, but her heart yearned for the adventure he promised. That night, she surrendered to a whirlwind of emotions. The intensity of their connection was unlike anything she had ever experienced, a tempest that swept her off her feet. His kiss was intoxicating, his touch electric. Every moment with him felt like a dream, a beautiful escape from reality. She woke the next morning, alone, the memory of the night before a hazy dream. The details were blurred, but the emotions lingered, leaving her both exhilarated and confused. Weeks later, the truth became undeniable. She was pregnant. The realization hit her like a tidal wave, bringing with it a mix of fear, excitement, and uncertainty about the future. The nausea came first, then the cravings. It was a familiar feeling, yet this time it seemed more intense, more overwhelming. But something felt different about this pregnancy. It wasn't just the usual symptoms. There was an unsettling feeling she couldn't shake off. It wasn't just the physical changes. It was a strange undercurrent of fear mixed with anticipation. Every day brought a new wave of emotions, a blend of excitement and dread. She started seeing things, fleeting shadows at the edge of her vision, shapes that disappeared when she tried to focus on them. Whispers carried on the wind. They were faint, almost imperceptible, but they seemed to call her name, sending chills down her spine. People she'd never met smiled knowingly at her, their eyes filled with an odd reverence. It was as if they knew something she didn't, something profound and unsettling. They spoke of her child as if it were something extraordinary, something beyond the ordinary realm of human experience. Their words a cryptic mix of blessings and warnings. Each conversation left her more confused, more anxious about what was to come. Her dreams became vivid, filled with strange symbols and ancient rituals. They were so real, so vivid, that she often woke up feeling like she had actually lived them. One dream in particular haunted her. It was always the same, recurring night after night, leaving her in a cold sweat. A circle of hooded figures chanted around a blazing fire, their faces hidden in the shadows, their movements synchronized in a haunting rhythm. their voices echoing in an unknown language. The words were foreign, yet they resonated deep within her, stirring something primal and ancient. In the center, a crib, bathed in an ethereal light. It glowed with an otherworldly aura, drawing her closer, filling her with a sense of awe and fear. She woke up with a gasp, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. The dream lingered, its images etched into her mind, leaving her to wonder what it all meant. Driven by fear and a desperate need for answers, Sara sought out the local priest, Father Michael. She had heard whispers of his wisdom and hoped he could provide the guidance she so desperately needed. He was an old man, his eyes filled with wisdom and a hint of sadness, as if he had seen the weight of many lifetimes. He listened patiently as she poured out her story, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and hope. She spoke of dreams, visions, and an unshakable feeling that something monumental was about to happen. When she finished, a heavy silence settled in the room, the air thick with unspoken words and the gravity of her revelations. He took her hand, his touch surprisingly strong, offering a silent promise of support and understanding. "My child," he said, his voice a low murmur. "You carry within you a child of destiny, a child of Ablon. This child is not just any child, but one that holds the key to our future." "Ablon?" she whispered, the word unfamiliar yet strangely resonant, echoing in her mind like a distant memory. "What is Ablon?" The priest sighed, his gaze distant, as if peering into the mists of time, searching for the right words to explain. "Ablon is the balance," he explained, "the fulcrum upon which the fate of the world rests. It is an ancient force, a power that has been foretold in prophecies long forgotten by most." Fear threatened to consume Sara. The weight of the priest's words, the strangeness that surrounded her pregnancy, it was almost too much to bear. She considered ending it all, ridding herself of the burden, the terrifying responsibility. But then she felt the first flutter of life within her. A tiny kick, a silent promise, and something shifted within her. Fear gave way to a fierce determination. This was her child, her flesh and blood. Destiny or no destiny, she would protect him, guide him. She would be the anchor in his storm, the light in his darkness. She would teach him love, compassion, and the strength to choose his own path. The weight of destiny. The remaining months of Sara's pregnancy were a blur of doctor's appointments, strange encounters, and sleepless nights. The shadows seemed to grow denser, the whispers louder, as if the world itself held its breath in anticipation. She felt the weight of unseen eyes on her, the pressure of a destiny she didn't understand. Yet through it all, she held on to the image of her child's face, the feeling of his tiny hand gripping her finger. She named him David, a name that resonated with strength and hope. She poured all her love, all her hopes and dreams, into him. He was her child, her miracle, her Ablon. The birth of Ablon. David's birth was quick, almost painless. It was as if the universe itself conspired to bring him into the world. But as the midwife placed him in her arms, a hush fell over the room. The air crackled with an unseen energy. His eyes, wide and knowing, met hers, and in that instant, Sara knew. This was no ordinary child. This was Ablon. The weight of that knowledge settled upon her, heavier than any earthly burden. The room felt both infinitely small and vast, a microcosm of the universe itself. She looked down at her son, his tiny hand grasping her finger, and felt a surge of love so profound it brought tears to her eyes. The choice awaits. Years passed. David grew into a bright, curious child, his laughter echoing through their small home. But the shadows never entirely receded. Strange occurrences continued, subtle but undeniable. Objects moved on their own. Whispers followed David wherever he went. Sara did her best to shield him, to create a normal life. Yet, she knew the truth couldn't be hidden forever. The prophecy hung over them like a shroud, a constant reminder of the choice that awaited him. One day he would have to decide, embrace his destiny as Ablon, the balance between good and evil, or turn away from it, risking the fate of the world. A mother's love, a child's path. As David grew older, Sara shared with him the stories, the whispers, the truth of his birth, and the destiny that awaited him. She taught him about the delicate balance of the world, the constant struggle between light and darkness. She instilled in him the values she held dear: compassion, empathy, and the courage to choose right over wrong. She knew she couldn't control his destiny, but she could guide his heart. In the end, the choice would be his. But no matter what path he chose, she would be there, her love a constant beacon, guiding him through the darkness, always his mother, always his anchor. For that was the true power of Ablon, the power of love to shape destiny itself.